Hello everyone, Blind Metal Gamer here with you once again, and I'm going to be honest with you. This is a stream I wish I was not doing today. I did not plan to have to do this. I woke up yesterday to the news that award-winning video game accessibility advocate and consultant Brandon Cole, aka Superblindman, had passed away. Now, for those of you who do not know who I'm referring to, Superblindman, Brandon Cole, was a video game accessibility advocate, and he did consulting work. And he did all the consulting work himself. And he didn't do it just for fame or for money or to be rich or, oh, I'm going to be the richest guy on earth. No. Brandon did this because he wanted video games to be accessible to more people. He did it for the right reasons. And in this live stream, I'm going to share with you my memories of Super Blind Man, how I came to know of Super Blind Man's work, and how it's affected me as a live streamer here on YouTube and Twitch, and just as an advocate overall for video game accessibility, because I do advocate for that. Now, um, for me, it started one day. I was talking to a friend of mine, and they had mentioned, I was telling them I'm going to pre-order such and such a game, but I didn't know what to get. And they said, "You want to get The Last of Us Part 2?" I forget what I was originally going to pre-order, but she said, "You know, you want to get The Last of Us Part 2 because it's going to be 100% accessible. Trust me." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "There's a guy on Twitter you need to follow, Super Blind Man. His name is Brandon Cole. He worked on the accessibility for it." I was like, "No shit." She goes, "Yeah, he did. Just buy it. You're going to be satisfied with it. Trust me." So I pre-ordered The Last of Us Part 2 on PS4. I believe I got either the standard or the deluxe. I forget which version, but when I got it, I went and followed Super Blind Man Brandon on Twitter, and I'm like, oh cool. I would get to know when he was going to go streaming and all of this, and so the game releases. I fire it up, and I was immediately blown away. My jaw hit the floor, folks, because I heard the thing say, "Press X to continue," in this female voice, and I was like, "Oh my god, they did it!" So I fired the game up. I start streaming the game. I'm hyped. I'm hooked. I'm ready to rock and roll, right? And I go into the accessibility settings, and I was just shocked at the number of great features that this game had: navigational assist, combat assists, customizable combat difficulty that didn't affect story or achievements, skippable puzzles that didn't affect achievements or progression. And I'm like, oh my god, they actually did it. So I start playing and streaming the game, and I'm really into it. So I end the first stream. I hop on Twitter as it was back then, and tweeted Super Blindman. I said, "Hey, you did a great job on this. Congratulations!" And he liked that. And so then I just kept following him. Kind of kept an eye on what he was doing, what he was working on. So we're gonna fast forward a little bit to, I believe it was 2021 or 22, when Forza Motorsport came out. Again, I'm not an Xbox guy, but I support game accessibility as a whole. So if it's going to be accessible on whatever platform, and I hear someone saying, "Hey, I got such and such. I need to know what game would I recommend," I would recommend a game that Brandon worked on purposefully to support him. So he finally was able to say he had worked on the accessibility for Forza Motorsport. I'm like, oh, cool. So I got on YouTube and started looking at videos. I looked on his YouTube channel and looked at videos of him doing Forza Motorsport stuff. I'm like, oh, wow. If they were to ever bring that, to cross platform, I would buy it because, again, Brandon, I support it, because it's fully accessible for everybody thanks to Brandon. Brandon did a good job. And we're gonna fast forward. I'm on Twitter. I'd pre-ordered Mortal Kombat 1, and Brandon had mentioned, yeah, he pre-ordered the high end, super high end collector's version. So cool to each their own. And so the beta comes out, and again, if he was working on this, he couldn't say, because of embargoes and NDAs, he couldn't say yay or nay. And oh my God, when it had a screen reader, it was fumbled. There was issues with the beta. And by this time, we had found out that Brandon was working on the accessibility along with the shout out to blind FGC Rattlehead, KH Rattlehead. Shout out to you too, Rattlehead. You and Brandon did damn good work on Mortal Kombat 1. So when I found out Brandon had worked on this, I jumped up and down for joy, literally and configuratively, because I was happy for the man. You see, because Mortal Kombat 1, I mean, it's one of my favorite franchises, I'll be honest. But it was one of his too. And finally, to know that game, that Mortal Kombat, was going to be fully playable by blind and low vision players was great. It was great. I was elated. And again, I tweeted him, yo, Superblindman, congratulations, brother. You did a good job on that. I like it. Good stuff. And he would jump into my streams from time to time too. I would be streaming, and he would be, there. I would be using the comments to speech on the PS5. I'd be like, "Yo, who is this?" He would go, "It's Superblindman. Hey, Superblindman, what's up?" "Oh, not much." Just. But he was such a kind man. If and I'm going to share a story that it's a Brandon story, but it's not a video game accessibility story. Uh, Recently, I had events in my life that I'd suffered loss of someone very important in my life, and I told Brandon about it. And he said, "Man, I didn't mean to trigger you." He said, "What happened?" I explained what happened, and he said, "I didn't mean to trigger you, man. It's all good." I said, "Brandon, you're fine. It's all good, man." And you know, then I found out later on, at the beginning of this year, he was working on the remaster for As Dusk Falls. And again, I jumped for joy. And by God, I pre-ordered the son of a bitch. Because you know why? I wanted to support Brandon. I wanted to support good accessibility in the video game space. And then I'm excited with bated breath. I'm waiting patiently and just waiting to see what the next project from Brandon was going to be. And again, I wasn't going to bother him or nothing like that. Just being patient, waiting, and just patiently waiting, like every other consumer. And then I wake up yesterday. Everything's going good. I was on a little mini vacation with some folks, with some friends, just taking a break, getting my head right, all that stuff. And I hopped on X just to kind of see how things are, how things are going. Because you know how Blind Metal Gamer does it. He's got to check on things and see what's up. And I found out that Brandon had passed away. And I was devastated. I mean, I was like, what the hell? This can't be right. And I talked to someone in his life that was close to him. I said, and they had wrote me a message saying that he was gone, that he had passed. And I was just like in my room, just like in shock. Like, I can't believe it. I'm still shocked because he was way too damn young. You know, he had a hell of a lot to give to the video game accessibility space. And the one thing that he would do, and Illegally Cited touched on this in his tribute video, if Brandon could not help you, see, his specialty was blindness. But let's say you needed some work in the field of low vision or cognitive or intellectual or deaf or hard of hearing. He knew people that could help you. He would point you in the right direction to help you get the appropriate accessibility consultation you needed for your game, which was great. And I remember, I was one time, I'm going to share a story. I was playing Diablo 4 and I was stuck. And this was after I had lost, I kind of became dealing with my vision issues, which, I'm not going to get into detail here, but you could say for all intents and purposes, I'm now a part of the blind gaming community too. So I wrote Brandon a direct message. I said, how do I get past this part in Diablo 4? He explained what I had to do. And he explained I was looking for the merchant to find Lazarus' weapon. You listen for the hammer of the blacksmith, the ting, 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 ting. You listen for that. And I found what I needed to find. And I thanked him. He said, no problem. And, he and I would, chat, on X, and he and I kind of had similar academia backgrounds. We went to residential blind schools or academies, and we were both on our respective wrestling teams, which was awesome. I thought that was so cool to meet a fellow blind wrestler to talk, maybe talk wrestling with. And, I wish I could have had him on the podcast with me and Kyra, or me doing some story time with him with the KSB stories, but I digress. Uh, you know, but Brandon was a kind man. He was a good man. And the Superblindman wasn't just a gimmick. That was who he was. He was a hell of a man, a hell of an advocate, a hell of a friend. He was just an overall good man. And to lose him, we lost one hell of an advocate, a hell of a consultant, a hell of a person, a hell of a friend. And I'm pretty sure that Jeff Keighley or anyone at the Game Awards may not be watching this, and they may not give a damn about this. But I do have something I would like to say. I have a request. My request is this: there's been a petition on X, and I've been in favor of this. And if you watch the Game Awards, they have an award called the Innovation in Accessibility. Okay, that's great. But I think that award needs some more beef. It needs to be renamed into the following: the Brandon Cole Excellence in Video Game Accessibility Award. And it should go to a developer and a game. There should be two different recipients: a developer and a game that has their accessibility to the level of, or if not greater than, either The Last of Us Part 2, Mortal Kombat 1, Forza Motorsport, As Dusk Falls, or hell, I'll even throw Marvel Spider-Man 2 in there. Although Brandon didn't work on that directly, it's very accessible. And, but the point would be the game and developer, the game would have to have a certain level of accessibility, and the developer would have to have had to put a certain level of accessibility into their game that would win this award. But I think that's the way it should be going forward. So if Jeff Keighley of the Game Awards is watching or listening to this stream, Mr. Keighley, I have a request for you. If you could rename the Innovation in Video Game Accessibility Award to the Brandon Cole Excellence in Video Game Accessibility Achievement Award, and use the criteria that I described for that award moving forward, I, as a video game accessibility advocate, a blind gamer, and a blind streamer, would greatly appreciate it, so that way we can help the legacy of Brandon live on. That's what needs to happen. He wouldn't want this just to fall off and be like, oh, done, he's gone. No, Brandon would want it to live on, and he would want his work to make things better, make video games more accessible. And hell, in a perfect world, I'm sure that Brandon would want all video games to be accessible, and that's the way it should be. So, to anybody who is a developer of any video game, big or small, if you need accessibility work or accessibility inspiration, look no further than video games such as The Last of Us Part 2, The Last of Us Part 1, Mortal Kombat 1, Forza Motorsport, As Dusk Falls, Marvel Spider-Man 2, and many, many more. But there's many of inspirational things out there. So, with that being said, I'm going to kind of end this tribute to Superblindman. I want to say thank you, Brandon, for all you did for video game accessibility. Brother, your work will live on. I'm going to do my part. By God, I will stream any accessible game that comes out down the pipe. If I can get a hold of it, by God, I'll stream it. And I may stream some games that aren't that accessible just to show how accessibility needs to improve. So, with that being said, this has been in memory of Brandon Cole, aka Superblindman. R.I.P. Your legacy will live on forever. You are gone but not forgotten, Brandon. We love and miss you, dude. Rest in peace, Superblindman. We love you. Peace out, buddy.